I just finished Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn and couldn't believe I've missed out on this game for this long. Mostly from being someone who preferred World of Warcraft, the idea of playing or even trying to start a new MMO was the last thing I wanted to do, until WoW lost all its magic for me. World of Warcraft was my all time favorite game for the longest time, and it still holds a special place in my heart from the friends and memories I have with that game. But it isn't the same game that I played when I was a kid, and was slowly becoming less and less of a place where I could go and have fun and go on random adventures. The last few expansions didn't really do it for me, and when I finished what I considered my endgame, which is getting Thanks for the Carry by collecting 500 mounts usable by a single character, I felt done with the game. I tried playing Classic and SOD, but I couldn't get into them because I felt like my main character was missing out on the progress have made with him since I first started playing at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. I turned my eyes to other MMOs to try and capture that feeling I had when I made my Tauren Druid fam all those years ago. I looked at old school RuneScape, Guild Wars 2, and Star Wars The Old Republic, but none of it felt like World of Warcraft. Then I remembered during the pandemic, I bought Shadowbringers to try out after seeing the explosion in popularity for Final Fantasy XIV at the time. This is a story of my journey to Eorzea and beating Final Fantasy XIV of Realm Reborn. While going through the race selections, I couldn't help but feel that I was basically picking just different forms of humans, which is pretty different from World of Warcraft, especially from the Horde side of things. My main was a bipedal cow called a Tauren in WoW, but with wanting to try new things, I ended up picking the Ara, which were not human enough for me between the scales, tail, and horns sticking out the side of its head. The customization in this game is very in depth, and while creating my character, I felt like I was making a one in a kind character for my time in this game. Next, I had to decide on what job I wanted to play. And thinking that this was going to be like World of Warcraft, I wanted to make sure I made the choice that I was going to enjoy the most, thinking that I would be stuck with the job for the rest of the game. But come to find out that it didn't matter at all, anyways, because in Final Fantasy XIV, one character can play every job. But I was happy with what I did end up picking. In World of Warcraft, I am not a fan of playing a healer. I've never enjoyed taking, so I gravitated to a DPS class. Now I main a balanced druid in WoW, so I wanted to try a melee class for this game to try something new. I did a quick Google search on the different melee classes offered in Final Fantasy, and that's when I saw artwork for a Dragoon and tunnel vision into picking a Lancer. If I had a nickel for every time I started an RPG in a carriage, I would have two, which isn't a lot, but it's funny that it did happen twice. And I have to be upfront about something. I do not have a lot of footage to show my early experiences of this game. I never intended to record any of this at any time, and my hands were full with work at the time. I worked in the healthcare field when I started this game back on June 1st, 2020. So if you can imagine, most of my time was sucked up with work at the time because of the pandemic. But when I had some free time and the energy to play the game, I honestly can say I was having a very hard time trying to get into this game. It felt so slow compared to WoW. The combat didn't feel very varied, and the story and the quest was kind of a slog to get through. I felt like I was again wasting what little free time I had on this game. And after looking into when the game picks up, I kept seeing the same thing. About halfway through the main story quest is when a Realm Reborn starts to get good. And to me that seemed like an insane ask of a brand new player, especially since I did not know what the halfway point was, and I avoid spoilers as much as I can, since the story was the selling point of this game. And with many previous experiences with Final Fantasy games, I know it had to be good at some point. Unfortunately, because of my work life and just not having a lot of time to sit down to play, I ended up just dropping the game and not returning to it until a year later. On July 2nd, 2021, I came back to Eorzea to give this game another go. I was seeing a lot of promotions for the final chapter of the story everyone was talking about, Endwalker, and to say I wasn't interested was an understatement. I watched a trailer for the game and was hearing all this hype for it that I wanted to be a part of it as well. I was at a new job at this time, which was less demanding of my time, so it was a perfect time to get lost in the world so many other people love. So I pre-ordered Endwalker, resubbed, and started my journey again. But I came across the same issue I was having before. The gameplay was slow, the story was starting to pick up, and it was piquing my interest, but it had been over a year since I last played, and I was lost on what was even doing in the first place. I also had the second story now to go along with my Lancer class, which I ended up liking more than actual MSQ, which pulled me out of the game further. Why was this more interesting than the story that the whole game was based around? I was becoming more and more overleveled from where I was in the story, and confused why I had not had a mount yet, and I was pushing level 30. I played the game off and on for a few more months and ended up leaving the game again on December 8th, 2021, thinking I would not return. 3 years pass and it is April 12th, 2025. I'm in a different season of my life and come full circle to how this video started. It's been a few months since I obtained things for the carry in WoW. I'm feeling that I finished the game, only logging in for special events or to maybe do random dungeons. I just felt obligated to play because I was paying for the subscription. But the War Within just wasn't doing it for me. While looking up other MMOs to try again, and I saw that Final Fantasy XIV had another expansion come out the year before called Dawntrail, and thought back on the character I made a few years prior. Seeing that it was the start of a new story for the game, and checking out some videos on it, I was again interested in trying out Final Fantasy XIV. I decided to give it one more shot. I had a lot more free time than I have ever had before, and I lost all interest in gaming as it was. So, with ending my sub to WoW and paying for one more month of Final Fantasy XIV, I jumped back into where I left off, which wasn't very far at all. I log in and remember nothing about this game, which makes sense since it has been 3 years since I played last. This time though, I made sure to have a goal, and that was collecting my first mount. That was the whole reason I enjoyed playing WoW in the first place, so thinking back on getting my Grey Kodo all those years ago, I was determined in getting my first Chocobo. I looked up how to do this and found that I would come across this while doing the MSQ, which I had not progressed in at all and was very overleveled. That's why I learned I had made a big mistake and I was playing Final Fantasy XIV like it was World of Warcraft. I was doing all the side quests I could find, any fates I came across, and was queuing in random dungeons to level as fast as I could. I had items given to me that increased my experience rates, and I was blazing through my levels. Part of this was because I wanted to progress my class quests since they were locked behind certain level caps. And the other was because in WoW, the true end game starts when you do hit max level. And for me, that would be grinding reputations and instances for old mounts. So I dumped all my side quests and just focused on the main story quest and my job quest. With being overleveled, I got through the running around and the fetch quest pretty quick, but then I would get to sections of the story where I had to sync my level to the appropriate level of the quest that was given to me, and I liked it a lot. It made whatever grand task, being a dungeon or a boss battle out in the open world, have more weight to it, and I had to slow down and learn about what was going on with the story. So on the same day, with focusing just on the MSQ, I joined my grand company and received my first usable mount in a Chocobo. With this milestone completed, I was excited to play more. This is where the story really begins. With my new mount, I start blasting through the MSQ and start to find that the quests between the dungeons are not the most thrilling. But once I get to a new instance throughout the story of the game, I had a lot of fun. I also enjoyed that I had the option to play with 3 other players, which is different from World of Warcraft, as this game only needs 2 DPS, while in WoW you needed 3. Or you got the option to have a party of NPCs. With this option, I could go through the dungeon at my pace and enjoy the story that was given to me, and did not have to feel like I was holding up other players, something that I worried about when I was playing in WoW. But to come and find out that the players that I have queued with always wait for the sprouts, which are new players in Final Fantasy XIV, with a symbol above their head in the shape of like a bean sprout. They always gave the players the opportunity to watch cutscenes, and no one ever yelled at a mistake a new player made. Now, this could have been just my experience with the game, but was pretty thankful with how kind the community I encountered was. Sadly, after finishing the dungeon quest and returning to running around in the MSQ, I felt that the same soul slog that I mentioned before. The story was not up to par to what I had heard it to be in the later expansions, and I felt again that making a new player slog through this was still a tall ask. But at least between the instances and the job quest, I felt like I had enough going on that I could keep on with it, what the early game MSQ had to offer, until I started the quest chain that leads up to the fight with Titan. Quest chain was the worst in my opinion. It started out promising with meeting these legendary warriors who defeated Titan in the past. And to learn how to defeat Titan, you end up doing this massive fetch quest for different items for a party that is being thrown. I honestly felt like quitting the game at this point. If this is what the game was like at what felt like the halfway point of the story, I did not want to keep playing for another 15 hours of a game that was slow like this. I powered through it, finding wines and different foods for this party, such as a secret goblin cheese recipe, and thankfully that was located in a dungeon called Brave Fox Longstop, which was a lot of fun to go through, especially with the giant green dragon at the end. But after stomping across Eorzea and collecting everything your character needs to join in the celebrations, you are finally told on how to defeat Titan by these legendary heroes from the past. You and Yustola, a scion you meet earlier in the game, then make your way to Titan's lair. Fighting Titan was my I understand now moment of this game. The music was amazing, the fight mechanics challenging and fun for where my character was at, and the fight itself was epic. The fight was so great that I flung my character off the cliff doing my backflip and did it a second time, on purpose of course. After this confrontation with the Primal and collecting another Crystal of Light, the story of the game picks up dramatically. Defeating Titan, you see that the Garland Empire witnessed you taking down the Primal, and that they are in cahoots with the shadowy masked man who has been trying to stop you from collecting the crystals throughout the story so far. You return to the Waking Sands, which is the base of operations that your character comes back and forth from throughout the story so far. And when you show up, you find out that the entire place has been massacred by the Garland Empire, the big bad of the story. This felt like the first encounter where they come out of the shadows and you as the player learn just how evil they can be. Characters you've been slowly learning about and getting attached to are killed, while others have been kidnapped. The slow burn up to this point just explodes and the story becomes all you want to do now. The game doesn't even gloss over the fact that your companions have died either. Right after this, you have a quest to bring their corpses to a church to be laid to rest, while you personally bring the body of Noraxia back to her people that you encountered earlier in the story. Which was interesting because when you originally meet her kind, the Sylph, you have to gain their trust. So having to bring them back one of their own felt all the worse. With this gut blow you are dealt, you start to embark on a journey to go and save the other Scions who were captured by the Garlean Empire and collect the last 2 crystals of light that you need. When you go to the chapel originally mentioned, you can come across this man named Sid, and he is familiar with Garlean tech. Alphanod explains the situation that we are in and convinces Sid to help us locate and fix an airship so we can go to the final Primal Garuda, who is causing chaos in her domain and is protected by a fierce windstorm that she has conjured up. With this information, we head to Corthius, where the airship was last located. While searching for the airship, a plot is unraveled on gaining the trust of Lord Drillmont so you can have access to the dungeon, the Stone Vigil, that the airship is located in. And after taking care of a heretic masquerading as the Inquisitor that has been a thorn in your side the whole time while you were in this area, you are allowed into the Stone Vigil, which I have to say has been my favorite dungeon so far. It was one of the first times I could remember that a boss fight had mechanics that you had to avoid that were timed with these whirlwinds coming at you, or else you'd be thrown into the air. The final boss was pretty cool as well, since when is it not fighting a massive corrupted dragon not fun to fight? The dragon was corrupted by the same shadowy figure we encountered before when we defeated Titan. He wakes up the dragon and we defeat it while Sid and Alphanod get into the Enterprise ready to go. After defeating the dragon, we receive another crystal and make our way out with the airship. After these events, we go on a hunt to find a corrupted crystal that will allow us into Garuda's domain, which will allow us to pass through the wall of her storm. While doing this, Sid gets the Enterprise ready to go, and with these things finished up, you're on your way to fight Garuda, which is in the same vein as the Titan fight. Just as cool and just as epic. When defeating her, we collect the final crystal we need, but the leader in charge of the Garland Empire in Eorzea shows up. Garuda then uses the servants of Ifrit and Titan to call upon those two primals. Ifrit was the first primal you encounter in the story, but I don't have any footage of this because it was years ago. And then they go and fight Gaius, which is where we learn of the Ultima weapon, a massive ancient biotech weapon that can absorb the primals and use theirs and its power to crush any foe that the Garland Empire has. With this information and the primals being absorbed by the Ultima weapon, our heroes must now do whatever it takes to stop them before it's too late. Finally reaching the end of the story, our character along with Sid and Alphanod go back to the Waking Sands, where we encounter other scions who escaped being captured from earlier, Gistola and Yada. With part of the gang back together, a rescue mission is hatched and we head back to Corthius to find Biggs and Wedge, who are being tracked down by the Empire to be killed so we do not find out where the other scions are being kept. After saving those two and seeing them reunite with Sid, we find out that the rest of the scions are being held. So we make our way to Mordora, which ends up in a quest chain where we disguise our heroes along with Biggs and Wedge to infiltrate the Garland base of operations in this region. You also take control of one of the Magitech walkers that grows a weird connection with you, almost like a pet. With these orders of affairs completed and learning how to salute like a Garland, we save our friends when the opportunity shows itself, which ends with everyone jumping off a cliff in a cheesy countdown with all the characters and being swooped away with Sid and the Enterprise and finding out the shadowy figure we encountered throughout the game was a possessed Thanstrid, a scion we encountered throughout the course of the game. Leads us to the end of the game. We have a meeting with the three leaders of the different companies here in Eorzea and become united to stand against the Empire and be rid of the Ultima weapon. A cool cutscene plays showing the different areas each company will take on, so the main base of operation where the Ultima weapon is housed won't be able to have any reinforcements. Our hero spearheads a fight in the first step in this operation and fights against Rathian Sas Arvana, a prefectus who needs to be taken out so we can cut the communications between the stronghold and that the Empire has. This fight was a fun one-on-one encounter, and I felt like I had to utilize the abilities my character had at this time. After this, we move into a dungeon to take out the next commander in the Grand Army, the Via Janus. The game shines when with its dungeons, and I like that the encounters ended up being a big fight with different mechanics to be paid attention to, which the game seems to be expecting at this point of view as a player. After this fight, we take the fight to where the Ultima weapon is and take on the next two leaders in the company, Nero and Gaius himself, which are housed in their own dungeons as well. After these incredible boss fights, we take on the Ultima weapon, which took everything we learned so far in instances and cranked up the difficulty compared to everything before. We take it on, and with the help of the godlike being directing us to collect the different crystals of light throughout the game, we help free the primals that the Ultima weapon had to absorb. Thinking we won, we are thrown one final twist and find out that Gaius was tricked all along by the possessed Thanstrid, and that by absorbing the primals, it made the core of the Ultima weapon able to cast a spell called Ultima to bring destruction and devastation to Eorzea. We then fight the ultimate weapon again to stop it before it's too late, which then leads to a final one-on-one fight with Laha Bra, the masked man and the true antagonist of this game. The clash ends with Up being futile and our hero fails in stopping him, but with the crystals we collected and the power of Hydaelyn, we are recovered and stop Laha Bra in his plans with the ultimate weapon. I'm excited to see the end of the game and moving on to the next expansions. I watch the story credits being played and then hear a roar echo around the celebrations happening for saving the day. This is where the asterisk comes in. I still have more in the Realm Reborn, but I did not know about this until completing this section of the game. So with that knowledge and growing to love this game, I cannot wait to see what's in store for me to experience before moving on to Heaven's Sword. If watching this made you want to try the game out, please give it a chance. It is slow at first, but really picks up as it goes on. The game is even free to play, I believe, all the way up to the end of Heaven's Sword with some restrictions. I just want to say thank you for watching this if you did. If you have any suggestions or tips for me as I continue playing and being a new player, please let me know. Again, thank you so much. Until next time.